Hi and welcome to tutorial 102 in this series of programs and tutorials that focus on TradeStation Easy Language. In this tutorial we're going to be creating a histogram profile based on the number of ticks that have occurred at a specific price level. As you can see on the chart I have open here, it's a 5-minute mini Dow, and what we're doing is drawing the lines from left to right, the longest lines representing the levels where the most number of ticks occurred. And what we're also doing is coloring the lines, so you can see the longer ones are green and the shorter ones are red, and we're varying the color between them, and those colors are going to be user inputs in this program. So during the program I'm going to be talking about using a dictionary, using vectors, sorting vectors, and drawing the lines. And we're going to draw the lines in two different ways, and I'll just show you the way I did it originally and then the way that I decided to do it eventually. And the first way was using date time points, and the second one is using XY points to draw the lines. So I'm going to make this program available for download, and if you're a Gold Pass member I'm going to make it available as a free download. Otherwise, just feel free to watch the video, make notes, and perhaps you could try some of these techniques in your own programming. Now, one thing to note with this is it does a lot of number crunching because we're dealing with tick by tick data, so it's very important not to load too many bars onto the chart and to not have too long bars. So what I'm going to be showing here are using 5-minute, 1-minute, and so on, but the program does do a lot of processing, and if you were to apply it to, for example, a weekly chart, that is a lot of ticks and will take a lot of time. So what I'm going to do, rather than just redeveloping the program from scratch, I'm just going to talk through the program and go through some of the major areas in the program. So the first thing to note is that I'm using infinite loop detect false, and that is just because the thing does do a lot of processing and can take quite a lot of time depending on how much data you load. Okay, we've got various namespaces loaded, and these are necessary to be able to use some of the syntax that we're using in this program. And the main thing we're going to be using is a price series provider, and rather than going through the inputs and variables, what I'm going to do is just let you see those, and then we're going to go into the program and look at the main areas. And incidentally, what I've made is this program to not be real time. What it will do is analyze the data it can see between the high and the low prices that are currently displayed on the chart, and then it essentially stops. The analysis is finished, so it doesn't continue analyzing data as new ticks are arriving. Okay, so one of the first things we need to do is to get an idea of the size of the window, and we're going to do this using the charting host, and that's just going to return the chart width and the chart height, as you can see here, and we just print those so we can see what they are just by way of testing. In the same, after this update where that information has become available, we're then going to go through and go actually do the calculations. And because we only want to do this once, I've set a intrabar persist Boolean variable processed, and I'm saying do this if it's false. If it's true, then don't do this. So what we do is we count the number of data items in the price series provider, and then for each of those we're going to go and see, and I used a technique similar to this previously, but what we say is if the price of the particular item in the price series provider is between the high and the low of the visible window that you can see, then we're going to look at the price ticks dictionary, and we're going to see if there is a value stored at the index based on that price. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add to the value stored for that index, we're going to add the new amount. So you can see here we're just adding 1 to the price ticks item. Else, if there isn't currently a price at that level in the dictionary, then we're going to just create one, and we're just going to store in it 1 for 1 tick. Then we're going to increment the counter, and we're just going to keep going through every item in the price series provided, see if they do occur between the high and the low of the chart, and we're going to populate that dictionary. Having done that, we're going to create two vectors from the dictionary, and we're going to do that so that we can sort them. So we in one of them we have the keys, that is the one where the prices are stored, and then the other is the values, that's the number of ticks for that particular price. And we're going to sort those, and we're doing that using a method which I've called tick or tck vector sort. And if you go lower down the program, you'll see the sort, and what this does is just compares one value with another. If one is higher than the other, it just swaps the values, and it just keeps on going through in a loop within a loop to sort the values. So at the end of the day, what we should have is the values sorted so that we've got the ones with the highest number of ticks, then the next highest, then the next highest, and so forth. Okay, so let's just go back up to where we called that method, and what we're going to do now is we're going to be doing the drawing. So we're going to go from value 0 to the number of keys count -1, and in each case we're going to need to calculate this gradient color. So what we're going to do that is we're going to use the gradient color function. So we're going to use the gradient color, and if we right click that, we'll see the definition of how that works. Okay, so we're going to take the value being passed in, then we're going to have a minimum value, maximum value, and then the from color and the to color. So let's just go back to the program, and we'll see that the value passed in is this val's value 1. The value here is going to be the minimum value. Value 0, that's going to be the maximum value, and then we've got the two colors. And what we do is we, having created the gradient color, we then get the RGB values based on that color. We'll be using that a little bit later. Now at the moment I've got the lines being drawn using XY points, so just forget the trend lines above for a moment, and what I do is I need to convert the price to a pixel level, and the way that I do that, I use the chart height that we calculated earlier from the charting host, if you recall, and then I take the price value, which is stored as a string, but we turn it back into a number, and I subtract from that the lowest value on the chart. Then I divide that by the highest value minus the lowest value on the chart. So that is telling us effectively converting that price into a pixel. And then we're going to be using my XY, we're going to be using the rectangle create. I'm calling it my XY rectangle, and I'm drawing that from xy point dot create 0 value 23. Okay, so the 0 here is going to be the x coordinate, and the value 23, that's going to be the y coordinate, and we're drawing a rectangle between the left of the chart and a point somewhere to the right of the chart. And that is determined by taking similar calculation as we've just done, the chart width. So this time we take the current value of the ticks, we divide it by the maximum number of ticks, and then finally we've got value 23. And that is because we also want this at the same price level. So we're drawing a rectangle, but really it's just a line because we're drawing it at the same Y level. So I've got a little bit of debugging print statement there for EUR USD. You can ignore that. And then we've got to set the color for the rectangle, and we're using that doing my XY rectangle.color, and then we're using the color from the values that we set previously. We want to make sure the XY rectangle persists, and then we add the rectangle to the chart. And that's what you can see if we just go back to the chart. You can see we've got what are actually rectangles but look like lines on the chart. And if we go, for example, to the euro dollar, you can see I've used a slightly different color scheme, but you can see the same thing applying on the chart there. And so if we wanted to recalculate, we'd Control R to recalculate. Okay, so that is the XY. Now the other thing we need to just look at is setting up the price series provider. And as always, if you wanted to set up a price series provider, you could use the toolbox. Just double click on price series provider, and then you'll see over here in properties a lot of the things we're going to be doing. I'm going to include it actually in the program that you can see. So if we just go back down here, you'll see that we do this once, and the syntax is as follows. We've got PSP, new price series provider. We're using the same symbol as we're using on the chart. We're going to be using interval type ticks, interval span 1. We want to use the first date from the chart, the first bar on the chart. We don't need volume data, we are using tick data, and as I said before, this doesn't need to be real time, so I've set that to false. I've also used a little bit of syntax here just to determine what the time zone is, exchange or local, and included a event handler there so that we can just get a little bit of information about what's going on with the price series provider. Then we load the price series provider, and then there's a tiny bit more information here that we need to include for the charting host that we used earlier. And then we do a little bit of setup here. We create the dictionary, we create the vectors, and then we calculate the number of decimal places that we need. Okay, so that is basically a quick run through of the program drawing the rectangles using XY point. What I'm going to do now is I think just do another video just to talk a little bit about drawing the trend lines using the date time points.